specific moves. He would come up with characters for each of that he was friendly with, and I became the Iron Sheik.
Oh my God.
Did you have to wear the pointy shoes? Because where do you get a pair of those?
I
I go to Canal Street, it's some knockoff store.
There was a lot in there. A lot in there that was accepted in 1984 that may not have been accepted here in 2023. Anyway, Richie ends up becoming a highly accomplished television sports director in the NASCAR world. He worked at Fox, he's worked at ESPN, he's a great dude. Yes, I knew you were leading with the Iron Sheik, and I was fully prepared with two stories. R.I.P. Iron Sheik.
The time. Wake Up with Defo by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you on this Juneteenth holiday. Jeff DeForest and Mike Lubitz. Happy to have you with us here for the Defo Show. When did Juneteenth become an official national holiday, Lubie? Is that a relatively recent development? Because, it's good to see recognition for this. And it's June 19th, so I'm assuming that it's always on the same day, Juneteenth, as the liberation that was finally known that slavery was over, and well worth the celebration here as part of the history of the United States of America. But how long has that been the case? It's a national holiday, right? Everything's closed today. Government buildings, no mail delivery.
It's a bank holiday, as you say. Yeah, I don't know if everything's closed, but I know banks.
Oh, really? Okay. Everything else is open.
I mean, most places probably are. It's not that. It's not Christmas, but it's a federal
only
holiday.
Banks. Yeah.
It's a federal holiday.
Okay, all right. Well, that's big. All right, so we are happy to be along with you for the celebration. If you guys are celebrating, and glad you got up with us. If you're off from work today, or not doing the usual thing, and taking advantage of what would be a 3-day weekend that also included Father's Day. And we hope everybody had a wonderful Father's Day yesterday. I did, except for a minor incident that kind of was a little bit scary. But nonetheless, and you don't want to be the one that collapses at a family gathering. Do you, Lubie?
Oh, no. Don't know.
Because it seems odd. It's like, what was he, passed out drunk? No, but...
especially you.
I guess the medical term for this is syncope. Is what happened. I got up suddenly, and all of a sudden, no consciousness, and you fall to the ground, and then you wake up and you go, what hit me? I don't know. But it was fine. But very weird, triggered by a perfect storm of events that would have led to this sort of condition, which I understand a little better. I don't know that I can be careful about it, but it involved like a mistaken dose, maybe, of blood pressure medication, lowered it down to a level where as soon as I got up, whoosh, out cold. Also factoring in heavy schwitz from my walk of life, a couple of beers that I tanked down after, the wine that I was drinking, and the fact that I was sitting in 100-degree heat for a while. And the next thing you know, I'm on the floor there thinking, did I just fall down?
Oh, God.
What the hell happened here? And then everybody's looking, and they're like, you okay? Okay. And I was okay. That was a weird thing. And this particular thing, you're like, okay, seconds later. You go down. I mean, it's almost like a flash knockdown. You go down, you get right back up. But okay, and very happy to be here, and feeling pretty good about things. Although, again, the vow, the resolution has been made that no matter what, I'm going to, get. I don't know that it's so much of a health issue. I guess it's just, fairly common with people that, sometimes, have experienced low blood pressure. That's the direct opposite from where I was before. But of little interest, I want to say this, and I don't know, from a sporting world, were you at all captured up in the drama that was the U.S. Open, Mike Lubitz, the golf event, which you would have to say was the major event of the weekend, would you not?
Sports-wise, yeah. I mean, there's nothing going on. I kept an eye on it because we had talked about different people who could or couldn't win. So I had an eye.
And you were on top of it for the most part, Lubie. So, I mean, Dustin Johnson ended up, not too far off the pace. I think he was 5 under, close to the end of his round. He might have, screwed up one of the last holes there. And I'm not sure if he ended up with a lower total than that, but he was hovering around the lead the whole time. Not in a position to win the tournament once, this guy, Wyndham Clark, He got it as low as, did he get it to 12 under at one point? He was 11 under most of the round, ended up 10 under, winning the tournament by one shot over Rory McIlroy. You had given us Dustin Johnson, and you had given us Ricky Fowler, who battled all the way. I mean, he looked like he was going to be a wire-to-wire winner, Ricky Fowler, and everybody was talking about how great it is, and everybody loves the guy, and he seems like a very likable character. In fact, I was thinking at one point as I was watching this guy, because you always see him in social settings, like when they have him pictured. He was at a couple of games. I think he was at a couple of the Heat games, I want to say, or some of the basketball games. And when you see him in a sporting crowd, surrounded by babes, this guy, babes everywhere. And you would have to imagine that his earnings are substantial. He's tattooed his shirt with sponsors. Hasn't won that much. Most people would say expectation to career accomplishments, maybe a little underwhelming, but certainly no disgrace. I mean, if you have a career like Ricky Fowler did, had he not been such a hot commodity coming into the PGA and his career as a professional golfer, then you would say, wow, this guy did all right for himself. But I was thinking at one point as I was watching this guy, wow, it would be nice to be Ricky Fowler, wouldn't it?
Oh, his wife's ridiculous.
Babes, money. I don't know that you need the fame so much, but I mean, what is he really doing for a living? He's going out and playing golf, something that you would gladly pay hundreds of dollars to do on these courses, Mike.
Yep,
Unbelievable.
Yep.
But golf itself, I mean, the origins go back what? I mean, what are we talking about here? Ireland?
1800s, right?
No.
300 years.
A crazy game. I mean, just a silly game. And you would think that either the Marquis de Sade invented this game, or maybe somebody like Jean-Paul Sartre, who thought that life was meaningless. And if you wanted to illustrate the point that life is meaningless, grab a little ball, hit it with a stick, and then walk like 250 yards so you can find it. And then hit it again. And somewhere way out in the distance is a little tiny hole, and you're trying to get that ball in there from the tee within 4 shots. Nuts! Who comes up with a game like this? It's insane. And then make it impossible to do on top of that. I mean, just make it as difficult as you possibly can to have any chance whatsoever of getting that ball in the hole in what would be considered a respectable score, which par established. In most holes, it's 4 shots. Almost. I mean, look, it takes what? How many mulligans to make a par for the average golfer?
For an average golfer,
Cheating should be an inherent part of the game, and this is a game of honor and integrity. Until recently, when we saw what level of honor and integrity. I mean, maybe it's great on the scorecard, but if you have to dip it in Saudi, blood and blood money, maybe the integrity part is a little bit on the shaky side. But the U.S. Open has always been one of these criminal tests of a professional golfer's patience and ability to deal with adversity. And it's not always the best guys, although you've had many great champions, but guys that can scratch it out and keep the ball in a fairway. You'll see, every now and then a guy like who was a guy, Corey Pavin, was not a big hitter, but he hit it straight, everything straight. Isn't that disgusting when the guy that hits the ball like 170 off the tee, some octogenarian, is paired up in your foursome? You don't even want the guy to be with you. You figure he's going to fall apart at the seams, maybe even pass out like I did yesterday around hole number 6. And he doesn't hit the ball. I mean, takes out a driver and hits it 170 yards, but it's always in the middle of the fairway. You're all over the place. In the woods, lakes, trees, muck. Whatever you can find that has trouble written all over it, you're usually capable of finding. At least I was. I don't know about you. Were you? No, I saw you golf a little bit. You hit a grounder, off the first tee, and everybody was yelling, "Run it out, Lubie! Run it out!"
I always go right in the air on the ground. I never hit it straight. I hate golf. I'm so bad at golf.
So the question is, do we like it when we see these guys staggering around under impossible conditions, but by their standards, which are pretty hard to put together? But normally the U.S. Open, you think rock hard greens. I may as well hit the ball into granite, and then the ball hit and it just bounces off like it was a silly ball or whatever, And take some bizarre bounce and end up in some tremendous, treacherous condition. And then, the fairways are narrow as shit, right? I mean, there's no way you're looking and going, well, you really want me to put a ball through there? The rough is gargantuan. And often, as we say, you would need a machete to get out of this stuff. And then some of the fairways are lined with Venus flytraps where they just suck the ball right in. And it disappears. If you're in a sand trap, forget about it. If you hit the ball even slightly off the fairway, even if you had a perfect shot that was rolling, and then it takes that little turn to the right. Oh, look at that. It's buried. I don't know if you'll even be able to find that one, much less hit it out of there. That's what you're used to. But do you prefer that, or do you prefer these guys just making an assault on par? What kind of golf action are you a fan of? Something in between there, some kind of moderation where degree of difficulty is high, but it's not impossible.
Exactly.
Which may be what ended up happening there with the U.S. Open. Drew a lot of concern from people that the course was too easy when everybody slaughtered par on the first day. I don't know what they did. I guess it was pin placements, maybe. Put some of these pins in places where you couldn't just, have some straight in putt from 12 feet, and it was impossible to get the ball close to the hole. But they held the scores about where they were the first day, although a lot of guys were in so-called red numbers in the tournament. Turned out to be some exciting drama. This Wyndham Clark, I do like when a guy comes out of nowhere and wins a major. And Wyndham Clark, who I had never heard of, I knew nothing about him, a 29-year-old PGA Pro, won his first event last month at the Wells Fargo Open, wherever that is played. Where is that? You want to take a guess on that?
Carolina, I looked. It said like Charlotte, North Carolina or something.
Okay. So, all right, maybe a sign that this guy was ready for some kind of breakthrough, but I don't know if it was going to be one at this level. And he held up against all of these other heavyweights that were chasing him down. Rory McIlroy was right on his heels the whole time, although he was playing ahead of him in the final round. Ricky Fowler, your man, was playing with him. In fact, Lubie, you know what? You might have taken down the pool if you could have found 5 other guys that shot even par. Because the winning total in my golf pool with the 7 golfers aggregate score, was 14 under. And you would have had, I believe, between Fowler, he fell off. He ended up like 5 under, I guess, at the end, as I think Dustin Johnson did. So you would have had 10 under right there. You would have needed one other guy. You would have taken Scheffler, no? And he was 7 under for the tournament. It might have even been 8. I think he might have ended up 8 under in third place. But you would have done very well, Louie. You could have been good for about 4 dimes if you had gone ahead and wagered on this golf tournament. But I don't know that anybody could have come up with the winner. I would imagine you're cashing a pretty handsome ticket if you had $100 on Wyndham Clark to win the U.S. Open. Cam Smith, we gave you Cam Smith also. That was my pick.
Yeah, he did well.
As a long shot guy, he was all right. He ended up strong. And your man, Tommy Fleetwood Mac, had a big final round to end up among the leaders. There's so many different ways you can bet golf at this point where you don't even have to bet the winner anymore. Now you're betting on a top 5 finish, a top 10 finish, making the cut, all of this different stuff that's available, and they don't hesitate. After every shot, you're seeing another potential prop bet wager popping up, even on NBC. What has become of this world in terms of overall degeneracy, Lubie? It's insane. But and usually something like that, where you're watching a major, especially the Masters, doesn't that get guys out to the driving range and maybe dusting off the clubs out of the garage? And I came to the realization many years ago that, you know what, DeForest, you're hopeless at this game. Take your fucking baseball grip and shove it right up your rear end, because you're never going to be any good at this, even if you could play a few holes in par or even 1 under. The next 15 holes are going to be a disaster. Nothing more embarrassing, too, than shanking a shot off the first tee, is there? Just a complete piece of ugliness. Something that goes directly left, ricochets off a tree, hits a rock, comes flying back, and ends up landing behind you. And then the people that you're playing with look at you as the ball is sitting behind you from where you teed off and say, "Oh, you lie one." Anyway, that was the majority of things for the weekend, and congratulations. The kid held on there. 29, I guess, is not a kid, but held on against some tough spots that he was in coming down the final few holes. He was starting to unravel, had a couple of bogeys after it looked like he had put the tournament away, and then had a big shot and a 60-foot putt. He cozied it right up to the hole. They're on 18, and comes away with that win. Didn't see a lot of acrimony going on, Lubie. Did you? Not much talk about what an atrocity it is that the Live Tour and the PGA Tour are now under Saudi rule. I don't think any of the announcers really dwelled on that. I don't remember any comments about that, as a matter of fact. It was business as usual, right? There's two guys in turbans with guns being held.
I was going to say business as usual.
They got a body hacked up in a bag on 13. They got to get rid of. Women are being marginalized to the point where they don't even allow them on the course. People are being beheaded, as they're teeing off. It's crazy, right? But not a mention of it. Nothing was going on. Oh, this is wonderful. I tell you what, there's nothing like the drama of the back nine in a major tournament. Okay, way to go. Who was doing the commentary? The guy on
It's NBC. Hicks.
It's Hicks, yeah. Right?
It's usually Hicks on NBC.
Yeah, and I like Azinger. I saw him getting ripped by some people. Paul Azinger, I think he's a good commentator. No, Lubie, what do you make? I remember having an interview with Azinger a long time ago. I was at some Dolphin banquet honoring Don Shula, and the PGA for some reason was being represented there by a couple of guys, and they said, "Hey, I'm doing a show there," and they put Azinger on. I thought he was a hoot. This was before he became a commentator. He was still golfing. And I thought, wow, that guy would be a good analyst, very much in the mode of a Faraday or Gary McCord or somebody that didn't take it too seriously but knew what the hell he was talking about.
Yeah.
And but I did see some not particularly flattering comments about how the announcers suck on NBC. I don't necessarily agree with that. You know me, I'd be the first guy to jump on that bandwagon, but no, I didn't think they were that terrible, but I don't recall in all of the commentary, and you're sort of like half listening in the background because you don't really need the commentary, because it tends to be, all hyperbole about how wonderful these people are. Well, there he is, and I tell you what, this is going to mean an awful lot to him on Father's Day. It's like, yeah, fuck you, let him hit a 9-iron and see if he can get it on the green. It's the same thing like all of that philosophical basketball stuff they do with Eric Spoelstra whenever he's, up on the podium there, and you're saying, okay, look, why don't you just, get to the point here? If your team is 3 for 27 from 3-point range, guess what, Spo? It doesn't matter about heat culture. It's called Brick City, my friends. Brick City. Speaking of which, and the Heat and NBA developments, which I know this is one of your favorite topics, but Scoop Skolnick going to join us at about 7:40 this morning and be with us for about 15 minutes talking about the Bradley Beal deal, I guess, was big news. I don't know that I'm moved by that. Are you? Bradley Beal, I'm thinking you got a 29-year-old guy that's making $50 million a year. Good player, no question. Exciting offensive talent. You say he plays no defense, Bradley Beal? He, is not necessarily known as a defensive stalwart. Let's put it that way.
No.
So if you're going to try to fool us into thinking that teams care about defense, this is not the way to do it.
No.
But injured a lot, misses a lot of time. I mean, is that not high risk? What are the Phoenix Suns thinking?
No clue. I honestly don't know what's going on in Phoenix. They're accruing a lot of offensive talent, and that's amazing. I don't know how it's making them better. Like, I feel like it's actually solely making them worse. Like these movies.
What do you need? You need the Heat made this great illustration this year. That you need these blood and guts players, do you not? If you have a lot of those guys, you can make up for not having, say, 3 superstars, and the 3 superstar thing is now very much in question.
Yeah,
whether or not that's a formula for success.
Outside of getting Aaron Gordon, they put that roster together through the draft. I mean, and they brought in Bruce Brown, but it's mostly Jokic, their pick. Murray, their pick. Porter Jr., their pick. Like, they went through the draft.
That guy, what is his name? Chris Brown? What that spells his name like Ava Braun?
Brown.
Yeah.
Brown.
He was their first round pick this year.
Like, they put that team together through the draft. The Warriors, very similar. Like, yeah, they added Durant, but they won a title before that, and they won a title after that with guys through the draft. Like, putting these stars together can work if it works perfectly, but it seems to not. Like the majority of these groups that have been put together have failed miserably. Like I don't know. I don't understand. I really don't get what they're doing. Like I'm not gonna lie.
And he was alluding to this, and is it Bartlestein? Is that the name of the guy?
Mark Barnes.
The general manager of the Phoenix Suns, Bradley Beal's agent, is his father.
Yes.
So I don't know if that was the same kind of thing like the Knicks had with Jalen Brunson, where they somehow mysteriously, before acquiring Brunson in free agency, hire his father to be an assistant coach.
Yeah.
Could be a connection there. Beal, though, had to waive a no-trade clause. You would have to think, are the Wizards a team that had any potential to be on the rise, or
no.
are they another team that's in a perpetual rebuild?
They're a total
which
disaster.
they now are, yes.
Yeah,
So, and they picked up Chris Paul, who, obviously you thought Phoenix wanted to get rid of because he was starting to really show signs of age and wear and tear. And he might be he's attractive because he has 1 year left on his contract. Is that the deal? Expiring contracts. It's my favorite aspect of NBA trades, that you trade for dead guys and people whose contracts are up, no matter how hideous, no matter how onerous, no matter how ridiculous the contract may be. You want that contract, and you're willing to trade top caliber talent that still has time to go on their deal, maybe at a much more reasonable rate, to acquire a guy who's a complete stiff at that point. It's a great concept, man. Definitely an unusual approach to what you'd think would be valuable in any kind of transaction. All right, the Marlins are red hot, Lubie, and Pat Fox tells me that senior citizens like me and him can get 2 free tickets. How about this? We should take this up with Jim Sarney, and maybe cop a bunch of free tickets to the Wednesday day game and the Thursday night game. 2 free tickets for senior citizens. Now, where are these seats? Way out in the right field corner or something?
Probably.
Do they screw the senior citizens? Do they make them go up a lot of stairs? How do they treat you? They're not giving you like a lower level box seat for a freebie on a Wednesday, although they could. I mean, basically, if you get into the stadium, you probably could walk into almost any seat. But will that still be the case, Lubie?
Mm-hmm.
Are these guys going to be completely unrecognized until when? Until they win 2 straight World Series? What would it take here to wake up the people in South Florida about baseball, or have them find the game even remotely attractive enough to go ahead and spend their money and their time going down to the stadium to watch the team play live? What do you think? Yeah, you could take a kid to the game.
I think when we get closer to the playoffs, if they can keep this going, because remember, the only playoff run they've made in the last 20 years, I guess. In the last 20 years was when it was that short season, and then like you weren't having fans, and it was the COVID year kind of thing. Like they haven't made a playoff run since 2003. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of fanfare we get, because again, the Panthers, it took to like the second round for people to give a shit, and they're just as heartbroken with the Marlins as they are the Panthers. So we'll see if the Marlins can keep this going, if in August, September, we start to see some support.
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to happen this year at any time, even in September. Will I see you in September? I keep going back to that game that I reference all the time, where I threw out the first ceremonial first pitch. It was September 1st. The Marlins were, I believe at the time, about 5 games out of the wild card. And they really, had shown some signs of life at different times, but, there were no cinch to make the postseason. Still, that being said, you would have thought 5 games out of the wild card. They had a home game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Marlins organization was out of relevant celebrities, so they asked me to throw out the first pitch. I actually practiced for a while and did throw a strike. But still, I can envision the disappointment that I had at the time when Pudge Rodriguez was behind the plate, and he was, warming up a couple of guys or whatever, and then they start the ceremony, and Pudge exits. I thought I was going to throw a pitch to Pudge Rodriguez, and it's Billy the Marlin gets behind the plate with like a clown mitt as the target. I mean, like a giant mitt, looks like a pizza. And that, I mean, that was a disappointment. You're thinking you're going to, get in there and maybe wind up and throw one. And so I remember that, though. I looked around, and there couldn't have been 3,000 people in the ballpark. and that was 2 minutes before the start of a game that was going to be crucial in any kind of a run if they were going to make a run for the wild card and make the postseason, which they eventually went on in 2003 and won the World freaking Series.
Yep.
And on September 1st, they had 3,000 people in the ballpark because they had neutered everybody to the idea that they were ever going to be any good, even though you could see a little bit of promise after pulling a plug on the team following the 97 World Series. And the people had suffered enough, Lubie. They had just flat out suffered enough that they weren't going to buy into this, and it really didn't. I guess I don't know when did the momentum gather for that? Because I'll never forget they had won the World Series in New York, and were coming back, and I remember driving by the airport there, and there were big crowds, and it turned out that there were more people there ready to greet the Polyman who was flying in after making a score in a handicapping tournament than there were to meet the Marlins after they won the 2003 World Series, right? Everybody was at the gate coming in from, I think we were coming in from, where was this, in West Virginia or something like that. I don't know. It's some obscure place where we were doing a show about a handicapping tournament, and Polyman won it. And naturally, there were the usual, creditors waiting online there at the gate. That was when you could go out to the gate. Remember that, Lubie? That
Yeah.
You got to be a child. You could actually go out to the gate and wave to somebody. Those days are gone, right? For the last 20 years or so. Thank you very much once again to that Saudi funding. Unbelievable. How did they skip over that? The U.S. Open is not a PGA event, though. It's a U.S. Golf Association event. Which what else does the U.S. Golf Association do? They run a bunch of youth programs and things like that. Are they an organization that would never think about selling their soul to the devil? So maybe it would have been inappropriate for them to talk about this potential merger during the thing. All right, and Bob Huggins, wow, a disgrace there, huh? I don't know. You hate to see that. Huggins wasn't the most well-liked guy. He was kind of gruff, and you would say maybe a little abrasive. Is that a fair characterization of Bob Huggins? My one experience interviewing him, he did sound like he was completely loaded when he came on the show. And that was about 9 a.m. And I remember Leslie Visser introduced him with this brilliant introduction about what a great coach he was, and terrific guy, told some stories. And then Huggins, in his first response, makes like a guttural sound, essentially, and just goes, I'm like, really, Bob? How are you today? always illustrating, like those comedians that we used to have on that were out till 4 a.m. snorting coke, and then they were trying to come on a morning show and do a little tour to pump up interest in their show at the Improv or whatever. And they weren't. You're expecting the guy to be, look, this will be the easiest 5 minutes I ever did. This guy's hysterically funny, and they were rarely up to speed, to do anything like that. But Huggins, he had to be in the bag when he came on that show. It was just, and then after about 5 minutes of that, we said, "Hey, Bob, great having you on." Got this big guest, thinking it's going to be great. All right, we're coming back with more. Scoop Skolnick going to join us here. We'll get into some of this stuff. Everybody always seems mishuggah when they make these kind of deals, don't they, Lubie? Bradley Beal, and yet every Heat fan seemed to be coveting the services of Bradley Beal. For what reason, we don't know.
Well, Beal would fit for the Heat. The Heat need more scoring. The defense isn't the Heat's issue. They have got a lot of guys that play defense. They need scoring. Bam wavers his scoring. Butler, as we've seen, is up and down with scoring. They need a third guy that can score. Hero's supposed to be that guy, but you never know with Hero. But that's the problem, is Beal is injury guy now too. So I was cool with he getting Beal. They didn't have to give up a ton. As the Suns shown, you didn't have to give up a ton. So he would have fit with the Heat. I don't know where the fuck he fits with the Suns. That's my thing. The Heat have facilitators. The Heat have guys like Gabe Vincent who can get the ball to people. Butler who can get the ball to people. The Suns don't. Booker at times can, but that's not his game. Kevin Durant can, but that's not his game. I don't understand how they're going to get each other the ball. I'm just very curious how that's going to work.
Seems odd. Yes, it does. Since they had, a scoring machine from the backcourt already with Devin Booker, and that the more successful formula they had was a tempered down Chris Paul, who was capable of delivering that basket in a clutch and did when the Suns were a much better team, especially during the regular season a year ago. The Suns did run into the Denver Nuggets, who did they just beat everybody? I didn't see Denver having such tremendous depth. Did you? The Denver Nuggets?
It's that they have a complete starting five because the bench is really Casey. I think does KCP start? KCP might start for them.
They brought that guy Brown in off the bench, Chris Brown, and they brought in
Bruce
Brown.
Had one good game, and the rest of it was and Christian Brown, who had one good game,
and Jeff Green. What was the other guy?
Green again, who did nothing the entire.
It's 100 years old.
Yeah, their bench is abysmal, but they at least they stole some minutes with those three guys, and they have five guys that perfectly complement each other. That's the thing; their stars fit perfect. Murray and Jokic fit perfect. You need stars. It's not that you don't need stars.
With Gordon and Porter, no doubt.
They need a fit.
And Caldwell Pope has this veteran savvy. Or whatever. So, interesting. All right. Well, we'll see if that was any big improvement. We'll see it through the eyes of one Ethan Scoop Skolnick, an NBA expert. And he's with 5 Reasons Sports Network, which we're very happy to be affiliated with as well. I'm Jeff DeForest. That's Mike Lubitz. Happy Juneteenth.
Yes.
Is it happy Juneteenth? Or?
No, it's a celebration. 2021 is when it officially became a federal holiday.
Oh, really? It's been a holiday that long? Wow. I didn't realize that.
2 years.
I mean, obviously, you're familiar with the many stories, and you see a lot of tributes and documentaries and all of this stuff. But I didn't realize it was a federal holiday since what? What is that? 2002. Very nice. All right, we're coming back with more. Scoop Skolnick going to join us, and we'll be with you until 9 o'clock today. Later on today, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. Mayo Man was eating at a lot of fancy places around his birthday. He hit what? He hit Thai Spice. He talked about that. I believe he's got an upcoming dinner date with another friend of ours, the great Joe Casal, at Cafe Seville. He's eating on the high end, huh? And we had all of those great experiences last week, including, how he backed up that Deccan Spice meal with a trip to a Thai restaurant that also has the word spice in their name. That could leave you on the toilet for a long period of time, could it not? But he survived it. And then he's got like burgers and hot dogs lined up. He's all over the place. So we'll have, we'll get the full spectrum on. I think Mayo might have eaten at every restaurant in South Florida over the weekend. It's great, man. I love this kid. All right, 12 o'clock today. That'll be Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. And we'll be back with Ethan Scoop Skolnick in a moment. Now that.
The time.
7:37.
Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
The world, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has got me sugar.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, and happy to be with you on this Juneteenth. Hoping everybody's enjoying maybe a day off and observing the essence of what the day is all about. That's fantastic. Paying tribute to it. Good to be with you. And we are shortly, I believe, going to be talking to Scoop Skolnick. He hasn't joined us quite yet about happenings in the NBA. Lubie's favorite topic, NBA offseason moves. And there he is. The handsome one himself, Ethan Scoop Skolnick. I know if anybody did, Ethan, that you were inclined to have a very happy and joyous Father's Day. How are you, my friend?
I appreciate it. I hope you did as well. Yes, it was more happy and joyous before the Bradley Beal stuff happened about 12 minutes before dinner. But yes, that's just the nature of this job. As you know, it never stops. It's 24/7. And usually it's at the worst possible time when the big news breaks. So we did our best. As did the Heat, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is always interesting to me because I think the Heat fans have something in common with Yankee fans, in that they feel that they're getting every player. Everybody's coming here. I mean, Bradley Beal is rumored to be available for trade, which obviously he was, and we're getting him. We're getting Damian Lillard. We're getting virtually every. I'm surprised they didn't want Chris Paul down here, but. How interested were the Heat? And Lubie seems to feel that Beal would have been better off and a better fit here than he is in Phoenix.
Well, I agree with that. I think from Beal's standpoint, this is kind of it's a star play, but I don't know that it's going to amount to anything. I mean, and Phoenix to me feels like, sort of a nicer version of what we just saw in Brooklyn. Instead of Kyrie and Harden and Durant, it's Beal and Booker and Durant, and you still have to surround them. First thing, they got to stay healthy, which didn't happen in Brooklyn with those three guys. But also, you got to surround them with something, and I'm not really sure what they're going to be able to surround them with, but we'll see. I mean, the new owner is clearly willing to spend there, and when you have three guys like that, you will probably find some role players who want to latch on for a year or two, but. I think from the Heat's perspective, it's a little confusing. I'll just say that because all of the signals were that they were going to get him. And I think they thought they were going to get him with what they were offering. But it didn't seem, well, two things. One, Beal didn't choose just them. And this is not a question of him not wanting to go to Miami. But it doesn't seem like he wanted to just go to Miami. Because, again, he had the control ultimately, and he waived the no-trade clause for Phoenix. So, obviously, he was open to that. But also, it was Washington didn't seem to want any money to come back. And that seemed to be more of their focus, just stripping the thing down completely financially than actually bringing in any assets. They just wanted the contract off the books, which will tell you what they thought of Bradley Beal at that stage and the contract. So, I think the issue with Miami was that really their offer, was Lowry, whose contract you're going to get off the books, but wasn't going to be any real value to you as a player, not if you're in a rebuilding situation like Washington. So likely he was going to be bought out anyway. And then Duncan Robinson, who has another year on that deal. And I don't really think they wanted the other year on that deal. So the haggling was about kind of, okay, if you're going to take Robinson, how many other pieces do you have, do we have to offer you? And Washington wanted, picks and pick swaps and all kinds of other stuff related to that. We had heard at one point Jovic was a deal breaker. Then I was heard yesterday he was not. I heard they wanted Highsmith. Then I was told yesterday that maybe that wasn't ultimately the issue, but that they asked for Caleb Martin at one point. I don't really know how all the pieces move towards the end, and we'll get more of an autopsy on it. But it does seem like Washington's focus was let's get off the money. And Phoenix's deal allows them to get off the money. I mean, that's really what it was. I mean, Chris Paul's probably never going to play a game there. And Landry Shamet, I mean, that's nothing in terms of financially. And then it's a bunch of second-round picks. So that's what they decided. And look, I think in some ways, I'm not going to sugarcoat this and say Beal wouldn't have been good in Miami because I think he would have been. But we may look back on it that they dodged a bit of a bullet here just because the money is so outrageous. And I don't know what it would have been like in 2 or 3 years. And also, look, the reality is, and I said this even when they were trying to get him, that my concern was, I mean, Bradley Beal has not been particularly available the last 4 years, and he's never won anything. And so, he's 29, and he's played for 10 years at this point because he came in as the youngest player in the NBA. And so I don't know that it was a slam dunk for Miami, but I think that their offseason will be determined on what happens next. And, if they end up getting Dame, which I still believe to be somewhat of a long shot, if they get Dame, then it changes the conversation here. But for right now, I'm not really sure how this thing is going to play out.
Well, and that's obviously where I was going next. It felt like this was finally the year that Lillard's going to say, I got to go. Portland, to me, it seems like they've done everything they can to signal to him, we love you, but this is what we have here. Like, they traded McCollum. They didn't make any moves. I know now the number 3 and Anthony Simmons. Like, come on, no one's biting for that trade. No one's going to give a real star for that. Look, and I get it. Kevin Garnett did this for a long time. Look, the super teams aren't necessarily winning titles. Fine. But staying doesn't win you a title automatically either. Like, I'm right. What Dame's doing and where the Heat fit in that.
Well, it's just a tea leaf situation, right? And I don't really know how to read these at the moment. I'll just say, look, okay. The first thing is this, okay, that there's clearly has been more noise related to him than ever before. Yes. A lot of the noise is coming, either directly from him or from Chris Haynes, which is pretty much the same thing because of their relationship. So I tend to take it seriously. And then we have Sean Hyken, who I know is plugged into their front office, who we had him on the podcast and on 5 on the Floor. And he essentially says Dame's not going anywhere in his belief. And I think that there's a lot of face saving that's going on here. And I actually think it's both ways. And that's the one thing that gives me some confidence for the Heat. Because I feel like there's an opening here for not only for Dame to save face, because, okay, well, I let him know, that I needed help and they're not going to get help that's, any older than 20 years old. But I also think there's some face saving potentially for Portland because I feel like Portland needs an excuse to move on. If they don't think that they can win with him, long term, not because of anything about him, he's a terrific player and he's been a great. He's been as good a franchise icon as you could possibly want. But I feel like it's almost like at this point that if they can't get a deal done, they have, let's say Scoot falls to them at 3. Okay. So they have their playmaker of the future. They can say, look, we want to do right by Dame now. Okay. We want to do right by him. And we have our guy. And so we're going to build this way. And I feel like they can sell that more to fans than they could before. They've had some ownership issues there. They've got a new general manager, not as new as Washington's, but new. And so I kind of feel like they could move towards the exits here. They could. I don't know any way that the Heat can know that they will. That's the thing. And I know they're plugged in there because for a bunch of reasons. I reported this a couple of years ago and very few other people did. They went after Spoelstra hard a couple of years ago. It was kind of under the surface. I reported it. ESPN picked it up afterwards. So look, Eric knows that organization very well, obviously. And so I feel like they have maybe more intel in Portland than they have in other places. And they probably have more intel with Dame because of the relationship, not only that Bam has with him, but also in this case, Jimmy, that they probably know where Dame's head's at to some degree. But again, Dame could change his mind or Dame. And I just, based on what happens, and he also could be cajoled by local sentiment. And so I think it's a really risky game to put all your eggs in. If that's what they're doing, if they're putting all their eggs in the Dame basket, it's really, really risky. Typically the Heat have had the plan after the plan after the plan after the plan after the plan. And usually it's like, okay, then they ask Andy to execute it, essentially. But even if you go back, way back, and I mentioned this on 5 and 4 last night, like 2003, they went after Elton Brand. That was the target. And that was the typical Pat Riley type back to the basket kind of player at that stage. But Donald Sterling was the owner, and so they made the offer sheet to Elton because he was a restricted free agent. So they made the offer sheet to Elton, and then everybody was kind of shocked when Sterling matched it. But then the Heat had another offer sheet like ready to go for Lamar Odom, and so then they get Lamar, and then ultimately, and they knew they wouldn't match that one, and they get Lamar, and then a year later they get Shaq. So, they didn't see the Shaq thing coming any more than they saw the Kevin Love thing necessarily coming this year. But, they had sort of an idea that things could emerge. So I just hope they have a plan after the plan after the plan this time, because if Dame is the plan, and they don't get him, and then you go into training camp with this same group again, and now it's worse because now you literally, your business has been aired everywhere, where everybody knows that you tried to trade Duncan, and everybody knows that Hero was likely next, and Oladipo, you didn't really want him, and the whole thing is just like, it gets sort of ugly at a certain point, you know what I mean? And now if we're gonna shift the conversation to Strus and Vincent, whether you're bringing them back, the Heat fans I think would like to have them both back, but at what price? And if they end up just overpaying both guys because they're trying to make, that's not going to go over very well. So it's a risky game that they're playing here, but I don't know that it was what they intended to play. I'll just say that I don't know. I feel like they may, I know Barry characterized, and Barry's as good as anybody doing this, okay, and he's been on top of all this, but I know Barry characterized it as half-hearted. I don't think their effort with Beal was half-hearted. It just wasn't all in. There's a difference. You know what I mean? I think they wanted to get him. I just think they were not going to give up all their assets that they felt they needed for something else potentially for Bradley Beal. And this, and it's a little different than Mitchell, because I don't think Mitchell was ever attainable that summer. I don't think there was any chance Ainge was going to trade him to them, especially without Bam being in the deal. But, obviously it's giving Heat fans some flashbacks, even if it is not a complete parallel to last summer.
Couldn't help but think about Juwan Howard when Riley got stiffed by the commissioner. And
that's the ultimate one.
Yeah, thank God they didn't get him, because he fell apart right after that and was never the same player. And they would have been a disaster at the time, crippling the Miami Heat, for a couple of years thereafter, and getting nothing in return.
Well, Gordon Hayward too. Again, he got afterwards, but Mo Williams. There have been times that Heat fans have freaked out about the guy that they didn't get, and ultimately it turned out to be the best thing. You mentioned the Juwan one's a perfect example, because you talk about having a backup plan. They literally signed Dan Marley within 2 days, if you remember, and actually Dan Jeff ended up being a better fit for them. Yeah. Maybe not as much of a star player at that point, but he fit what they need. He was the glue two guard on, playing with Timmy on those teams. So they usually have a plan. That's why I'm always like with Heat fans, I'm like, just relax, just let it play out a little. Yes, I'll criticize them. I have no problem criticizing them. Trust me. Okay. I'll get the text from them. Okay. But I'm just saying, they subscribe to my text service. Okay. I'll hear about it, but I'm just saying, could we at least let the thing play out? We're not even at the draft. Okay. Let's hold the freak out just a little bit.
Any kind of prospect for Miami in this draft. I know you got to run, but if you could touch on what the fans should be looking for there. And is the kid from Alabama, Brandon Miller, is he going to be the number 2 pick in your opinion?
I don't think he should be, but I'm not a draft guru. To me, Scoot looks generational. When I saw Brandon Miller in the tournament, was a little concerning, because guys, you tend to want your best play, prospect like that to show up in that scenario, and he was not good. Again, one game, whatever, but it's
getting outplayed by FAU players.
That was, and looked frustrated during it. Also, but. Honestly, I didn't expect the Heat to make this pick. So I don't, and the workouts that they had kind of suggested that they wouldn't. They seem to be working out. We had a hard time getting a list of the workout guys, but the ones that we got seemed to be for after the 18th pick, most of them. So it almost seemed like the plan was to trade out of this and to maybe trade back not maybe necessarily the back of the first round, but maybe pick up second round picks, because the new slotting for the CBA, the second round picks don't count against your tax. So it seemed to me that they would be more likely to trade out of 18, try to pick up a couple of second rounders in the first half of the second round, maybe, and try to restock the roster with cheaper talent that way. So I don't have a great feel for it. I know that Keegan Murray's brother, they like him. There's a few guys. The kid from Marquette, not surprisingly, They like him. He's a wing with some athleticism, and he seems like a Heat player. I mean, there's a few of them. I don't think they're trading up. I'm still not convinced they're making the pick for themselves, or at least, or maybe it's a player they bring to possibly trade later. I don't think they're in the game right now of waiting on guys. Jimmy's window is what Jimmy's window is. We saw Jovic was, I don't think they want to trade Jovic at all, but I obviously his name has come up in some of these conversations. So my guess, if I was to say, do they make the pick or not? I think they make a pick. I don't think it's necessarily going to be at 18. So it's hard for me to really know what they're looking at there. They need size, but this draft does not have a lot of it. It seems to me like, if they end up taking somebody, it's probably going to be one of these switchy kind of wing types again, with athleticism who can defend and hopefully make a 3, maybe another 3-and-D type. I do know that Washington, asked for Caleb Martin. And I think at some point the Heat are going to have hard decisions to make with him to make a trade, because it feels like that's the guy that other teams really want as the throw-in piece. And the Heat clearly view him at this point, especially on that contract, which is really good, as much more than a throw-in. And so, maybe you try to get another guy like him to get in the system, which is something that they've done that kind of thing before when they thought they maybe have to trade a player that they don't want to.
Martin Murasep would have been a throw-in if he had made the roster.
Oh my God! That killed the whole international thing for like 15 years, Jeff.
They scouted him with artist renderings. I'll never forget that. Yeah, Danilovic.
Yes, it's Danilovic.
I know you have to get going.
Name my daughter after
Scoop. We thank you so much. Always a pleasure. A great insight as always, and I put you ahead of Barry Jackson in terms of the information.
I don't know. There are 4 Barrys, so it's hard to
he's relentless, though. I will say that. He is as relentless as anybody in pursuing these sort of things. So
he is. Yeah. He is. When he posts "we" with an exclamation point on Twitter, like it's over for you if you're competing with him, because he's got no, I love Barry, and he's been totally on top of this story, and I think he's in the same place as me, where he's sort of frustrated about being the messenger at this point. But it's kind of like, all right, we're just reporting what we're hearing. That's all. Yeah. And it's just, if they don't close the deal, or they don't want to close the deal, or the other team doesn't want to close the deal, or the player doesn't want to close the deal, it is what it is. I can just tell you they were in on Bradley Beal, and I would characterize it as more than half-hearted, just not all in.
Excellent.
So,
Scoop, right. Have a good show, man. Thanks so much for being with us. Always a pleasure. Scoop Skolnick, ladies and gentlemen. He hangs on to the bitter end with that stuff, man. It's funny too, Lubie, because I don't, I don't have a feel for doing that kind of in-depth reporting on. I don't know. You can't necessarily consider this Heat minutia, can you? It's not like talking about whether a guy is going to get 12 minutes a game or 14.
No.
But I couldn't find myself at this stage. I mean, or at any stage, actually, and it's great that people do this, because, it truly is, the essence of being a reporter, where these guys are digging all the time for this kind of information, which is meaningful to what did you say? Broad masses that are concerned about this. I'm more the type that, oh, yeah, they got Bradley Beal. Okay, great. We'll see how that works out. Than to be relentlessly pursuing that, in some kind of underground, and having to have all these deep, buried sources inside the organization, so you can figure out, oh yeah, it was all about the cash. That was good stuff. It's also, a little bit. You would figure not that many people would be doing it, right? Scoop's doing it. Barry Jackson. Are there others, Lubie, that get into that much detail?
Winderman.
Winderman, yeah.
Obviously.
There's a lot of attention being paid to that sort of thing.
People love it. Like it's become a huge deal focusing on the offseason.
All right. I don't know. It looks to me, and I'm not sure that, this is based. It's certainly not based on the kind of in-depth knowledge and digging that Scoop Skolnick is doing, but I feel like the Heat are a little bit snookered, don't you?
Just recently, they've been real close on some of these deals and haven't been able to close them. So we'll see if this offseason is any different. I think they are willing to get rid of Hero. That Robinson's shown signs like the role player guys they were trying to trade last year that no one gave a shit about had really good runs. So I think they're more valuable now.
The question would be, how consistent can these guys be?
That's the question. And that's the thing.
You could take a look at all of them, the whole bunch, and say, wow, you know what? When that guy's on, he's really an asset. Duncan Robinson showed flashes of that, certainly last year. And how he fell off the apple cart this year was somewhat baffling, was it not? And then he comes back in the postseason when you're thinking he's the last guy you can count on. And all of a sudden, Spolster's throwing him out there in key minutes, and he's delivering and going to the basket and making faces and all kinds of stuff. Gabe Vincent, same thing. But then last couple of games against the Denver Nuggets, it was vanishing act, which was unfortunate. Strus has spells there where you go, wow, who's this guy? He can play. And then goes into a shell and is not able to deliver. Caleb Martin, same thing, superstar status after the Boston series. And I don't know if he was injured or not. Was there any speculation on that? But he was not the same guy against the Denver Nuggets, who, as you were saying, play no defense. And yet, when you look at it, the lowest Heat scoring totals in the postseason came against the Denver Nuggets. So what happened there? Did they run out of gas?
A little bit of both. The Nuggets definitely made a concerted effort to stop allowing the three-point shot, which was something that the Heat were annihilating them in the first couple games. And the Heat, it just seemed like they hit their zenith. Like those guys hit – at some point, those guys were going to revert back to the norm. And that's the question is, who are Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, Max Strus, Duncan Robinson? Like, what are they?
Yes, and Kyle Lowry, I guess this if he does come back to the Heat, this would be his last year. But always interesting to me. I wanted to get into that with Scoop about the expiring contract syndrome in the NBA, and I was going to ask him, and I don't know if this has ever been verified or not. Has there ever been a deal that was consummated involving a guy who was actually deceased? Right, where you're getting the contract of George Mikan in a deal. Like, what? Do we have to pay this guy? You got to be kidding me. All right, we're coming back with more. We'll be with you until 9 o'clock. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 12 o'clock on South Florida Live. That's Mike Lubie Lubitz. I'm Jeff DeForest. Our thanks to Scoop Skolnick for joining us here on the program. Many things to get into in the next hour of the show. I keep asking myself if this Marlins baseball team could possibly be, dare I say it, Lubie? Well, will this be the kiss of death? Do they go on a long and perpetual losing streak after I make this statement? Is it possible, Mike Lubie Lubitz, and I can't answer this question, is it likely, Mike Lubie Lubitz, that the Marlins are for real? What do you think? It's a great mystery. It really is. West Virginia, what do they do, man? I mean, how sad was that? Were there people out there that were rooting for, Bob Huggins to go down in this fashion? I can't imagine.
I don't know.
Right? And the whole thing with the gay slur that was, unsolicited. Just came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, the guy, it was literally Al Campanis on Ted Koppel, no? Where all of a sudden the guy's like, hey, you know about them silly... And you're thinking, really? I mean, imagine you're hosting the show. What do you do there? You go Billy Bush, you just laugh along with it. Oh, really? You grab him by the pussies, Donnie? That's great. Would you be gratuitously laughing along with your celebrity guest at that point, Lubie? Or would you just say, you know what, Mr. Trump, I'm going to end this conversation right now because that's disgusting.
I don't know if we would call it disgusting, but we would find a way to end the conversation because once you go there, I don't know how you come back from that.
So Huggins is repeatedly going off about, with disparaging and derogatory remarks about implying that, gay people are some inferior brand of people. And referencing, a team and talking about how he hated them. And if you're the host of the show, what are you doing during that period of time? Yeah, Bob. I mean, you know what? How does it look for next year? I mean, is there any chance you could win the conference? And he keeps going back to the shit that, is the last thing you want to hear. And meanwhile, right, this was on a radio show. Don't you think the program director was running down the hallway with a sledgehammer to break the glass and say, "Get this guy off. What are you talking about?" It was in Cincinnati. Was nobody around from management, to say, are you really going to allow this to go on for a while? Anyway, a DUI, how blasted are you when you blow a .210? Have you seen that number before?
Pretty solid. Yeah, it's a pretty solid number.
I mean, the legal limit may be a little bit. I'm not recommending or advocating that they raise it or anything, but it may be. Some people might have a tolerance where if you blew a 0.8, what is it, 0.8?
0.08, yeah, 0.08.
0.08. That you're okay. Is that feasible, Lubie, in your medical opinion?
Like a glass of wine or 2 glasses of wine. It's literally a number that no grown adult that's drank ever is going to get drunk from. Now, again, any alcohol in your system could dull your senses.
Could be an impairment, sure.
Thinking, I get it. I understand why that's a number, but you're not drunk driving at that point. You're tipsy driving.
Right. Okay, so you're hammered though at .210.
0.21, I don't know. It feels decent, like a solid. It feels like you're feeling it. Like you shouldn't be behind the wheel.
It's 3 times what was deemed to be the legal limit, where you're no longer considered to be capable of driving at a level that would be safe for everybody that's on the road. Yeah, and he didn't know where he was. He had no idea. I mean, the guy was like a shot fighter. It was crazy, and that was it, right? This was going to be his last year anyway. So, but were people not fans of this man, Bob Huggins, deemed to be somewhat of a slimy character? Somebody that I don't know that he was as much of an advocate for the kids as say a Nick Saban. But no, he was very successful. I mean, was he not the winningest coach currently on the scene?
Active. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Anyway, oddball story coming out of the weekend. All right, coming back with more in a moment. I'm Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz, and the Defo Show continues in a moment. Now that.
The time.
8:06.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
Hear me. I am your new president. From this day on, the official language of San Marcos will be Swedish. Silence! In addition to that, all citizens will be required to change their underwear every half hour. Underwear will be worn on the outside so we can check. Furthermore, all children under 16 years old are now 16 years old.
What's the Spanish word for straitjacket?
Power has driven him mad.
Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Good to be with you here on the Defo Show. We'll be with you until 9 o'clock. Brett Tester, the agent of the Star, is going to join us about 8:40, and we'll dive into a little football with the agent of the Stars. He might have a wrap on the hockey season. Still, probably the most interesting aspect was how busted up the Panthers were in that final series, and we tend to be critical, Lubie. Maybe you were lacking a little bit in knowledge and understanding. As if you looked at some of the guys that you were saying, well, when is Ekblad going to show up? And the guy is playing with a concussion, torn rotator cuff, a broken foot. His ass is on fire. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And we're thinking that, yeah, they should be able to keep pace with those Las Vegas Golden Knights. All they did was have the best record in the West and knock off a couple of pretty powerful teams themselves on their way to the finals. We just weren't paying that much attention to it because what do we know about Western sports? Nothing. We knew Golden State for a little while. We all know the Lakers. I guess we know a little bit because it's forced down our throat that the West Coast teams are more valuable than East Coast teams. And we on the East Coast, tend to take offense to that, do we not? That, and we play a better brand of basketball. I'm not sure that we do. West Coast was always deemed to be finesse, a little bit of a fast break, showtime type of thing, where, we in the East want to knock each other's teeth in. And that was characteristic of it. But what we're seeing of late is that maybe that's not the formula. Maybe it's better to play like this very symmetrical form of basketball where, all the pieces fit together like they're supposed to, which is why I'm not that optimistic about the Miami Heat making any significant changes during the offseason. I think they have to count on those guys becoming more consistent. And they do need a little bit more, it appears, than Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. One more dynamic player has to emerge from that bunch and be able to maintain it throughout. Tyler Hero, a lot of people were thinking that was going to be the guy, but it's interesting because he was sixth man of the year for having a really good season 2 years ago. Statistically, if you look at what he did, he was very much the same as he was when he won the sixth man of the year award and got all this recognition. And yet everybody wants to get rid of the guy now, saying that turns out that he's a bust. Incredible. All right, a couple of things, oddball things that just struck me as I was perusing some of the other stories that were on the sports ticket over the weekend. Lou Williams, remember Lou Williams? He retired. How do these people do this? Is there a statute of limitations on announcing your retirement? Was Lou Williams still in the league, Lubie?
That's my problem when these guys announced they're retiring that I didn't know we're still playing. Like, oh, good for you. Like Vince Carter retires. Like, dude, didn't you retire 2 years ago?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, why not just say that Lou Hudson retired? Was an outstanding player back in the day, but he played like 40 years ago. It's crazy. But Carmelo Anthony, right, did the same thing. I'm retired. No, when was the last time you played? Like 100 years ago. Come on. But anyway, that was a note that struck me. I'm thinking, when was the last time we saw Lou Williams on a team? Had to be. Does it even say? Oh, he last played in the 21-22 season. So he's been out of the league for a year. He finally said that he's hanging it up. And now the fascination with this Formula One stuff, Grand Prix racing, what the hell is that? The same guy wins every week. Did you notice this, Lubie? And he goes wire to wire because it's almost like one of those fixed harness races at Roosevelt. You just follow in line. Oh, well, there you go. Look, there's no changes. They come around the track for the second time. And you're thinking, okay, well, when is somebody going to, pull one of these horses up? This Max Verstappen wins every week, Lubie, every single week. So what is that? I mean, I'm not enough of an auto racing fan or, somebody that would be capable of analyzing this. Is this so exciting? I mean, the people go nuts for this stuff.
My sister-in-law,
it looks like shit when they're showing it. I mean, the guys are doing nothing.
She's into sports a little more than my wife, but she's not into sports at all. Her and her husband, and neither of them are into sports. There was some, I guess, reality show on Netflix that was about Indy or whatever the hell this racing is, and that got them into it. We were out yesterday eating with her family for Father's Day, and on the TV they were showing it, and I'm like, "What are you watching?" And they're like watching it. They're looking on their phone, seeing who's winning.
It's like go-karts.
what do you want? I'm like, oh, you're watching the racing? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I don't give a shit about this. And then she went down a whole thing about how it's so big and everyone loves it. And I'm like, oh, whatever. Yeah.
I think you get more of a buzz going to Grand Prix Racerama and driving around those little tiny cars that they have. And may take more skill and it may be more endangering than this Formula One stuff, which I don't get it yet. I mean, to me, it's like the soccer of auto racing, where I don't understand the overwhelming fascination with it. Yeah, if you like to play it, great, and you want to watch a game or two, and that's no problem. But hundreds of thousands of people crying and screaming and giving birth while they're in the crowd, they can't even resist the fact that this could be the day. They want to see Messi. What kind of proposition is this, too? Now, the Mustang has hit me with this, and I told her I didn't think this was possible. Should we not? I believe that you can buy season tickets to Inter Miami CF. They're like $100 for like a season ticket. Is that true?
No, that's not true on any level.
Never has been. Okay.
It was true a few months ago, and I don't think it was 100. It was like $600 or $1,000. But
$1,000 to buy a season ticket. How many games are there in the MLS? How many games do they play?
I think it was like $600 or $500 because they only play like 8 home games. Remember when we had the kid on Austin from 5 Reasons? He said they play like 8 home games. So
8 home games. Okay.
There's not a lot of games, but it was ever.
But then do they play other games like as part of tournaments and all of this other stuff, or
I think
where it's all neutral site?
They played a few. Now they're going to play more. Now with Messi, they're going to want them in a lot more of these tournaments. Before, I don't know how many they played, but their tickets were closer to 100 than what they are now. That's not a real number. Now
100. Okay, so you're saying a season ticket for the 8 games was at least
like $500-$600.
$500. Okay.
I think something like that. Because it was like $40 a game, and I'm sure your season tickets are good tickets. But the problem is now it's like $400-$500, and that's not even on the off sale. The off sale market's at $1,000 a game. Like,
okay, so would it be wise even at that price if you could get season tickets, and figure that you're going to scalp them to all of the Messi games? But I told the Mustang they're not going to be playing at this stadium.
That's the other thing.
So there'll have to be, you would imagine, a complete reissue. Although if you had season tickets, are they obligated then to include you as part of whatever package takes place on tickets for Hard Rock Stadium, if that is the eventuality, and they start playing their games there? Because they're not going to play in some crackerjack stadium with Lionel Messi on the team, are they?
No, there's no way. There's no way they play even one game in an 18,000 seat stadium. There's no way.
All right, so of what value would it be? Would it be worth the risk? This is strictly as a business and monetary proposition, Mike Lubie. Would it be worth the risk to go ahead and buy as many season tickets as you could get your hands on right now in the prospect that you were going to sell them for big money to the Messi games at Hard Rock?
If you can get them, again, I don't know if you can buy season tickets right now. I don't think they're allowing people to do that.
Oh, they shut off sales, huh?
That's what Austin said, and from what I've seen, trying to buy a ticket for them is very hard right now. They're trying to figure out what it's really worth, and they've sort of slow played this. Like, I don't know if you can just
are they playing out their home schedule as this is going on?
Yeah, aren't they in season now?
Do they have games? I don't know. I can't figure it out. When is the season of the MLS? Does anybody know? Does the commissioner of the league even know? What comprises the MLS season? Because, we're getting this guy, right? The most famous and supposedly most talented soccer player in the world today. He's 35 years old, but still, not necessarily close to being a shot fighter. Seems to have some shelf life left. Certainly has tremendous appeal. And we're getting this guy, but we don't know when and how many games is he going to play? I mean, if he comes...
We're not playing this season. I mean, he's not going to.
I thought he was. I thought he was coming in for this year, no?
I don't know how that even happens. There's still so much red tape that has to...
Yes, like they have to, go ahead and deed him whatever is, considered to be any positive asset that the league possesses, no? He will end up owning the MLS.
Yeah, exactly. Look, it says the season. Okay, yeah, I don't. They're in the season now, and I'm into August, and there's still games. I don't know how long the season is, but I guess
Supposedly, if this Messi transaction takes place, the guy would be available to him. I believe, at least that's what I think I read or heard, in sometime in July. So would it be worth it? And do they have time? How are they going to work all that out? Where they change everything?
This whole thing. I think it's worth it to take a chance at buying the tickets. I just don't know what they'll mean, and I don't know if they'll let you. The way Austin talked was like they're really trying to hold back tickets. Future, like they'll let you buy tickets now, but like these August games, these July games, like they're supposedly really weird about selling.
Anything with Messi is not for sale yet. Is what you're saying?
It's what it feels like. I mean, you can try. It's a good bit. Look, if you can get your hands on these tickets, they're going to be worth a lot of money.
Can you imagine me? I mean, how ridiculous, how ironic would it be if I ended up making, a major score scalping soccer tickets for the local MLS team? It seems implausible, impossible, unfathomable. There's, no limit to the amount of, shock and awe type of words that you could apply to this. Me standing out the stadium going, hey, you want to see Messi? There's only one way.
I mean, I don't think you have to do that nowadays. You just put them on StubHub or put them
you
on.
don't act. Yeah, that's right. That whole thing of physically being. But I would get a kick out of physically being out there and maybe even risking getting popped by the cops out there. What could they possibly say? They'd be buying the tickets off of you. I remember that. This was a disgrace. We tried to scalp a couple of tickets for a Jets game that I couldn't attend at the last minute.
It wasn't even that long ago.
A couple of years ago, and we went around the stadium. Dolphins, Jets. You would think a nice, easy sale. I was offered under face value for them by some woman that looked like she would really struggle to come up with the $40 she was offering for two like really premium seats. Face value on these tickets combined was like $300. I couldn't even get $60 for them. Day of the game. All of these people that are barbecuing out there and the tailgating parties, and I thought, wow, how could this be? Back in the day, you used to be able to stand on the turnpike there, hold up a stack of tickets, and they'd be gone in seconds. And that was one of the fringe benefits. It was nice, too, because I would take that money that I made off scalping the tickets that I got from the radio station and go straight to call the race course and miss the game. And nothing like having a bankroll handed to you that you had literally nothing to do with. And I was there anyway, so it was not inconvenient at all to just go out to the turnpike there, sell tickets. But they were in hot demand for any game. It didn't matter who was in town, any schmenk team. You could unload Dolphin tickets. And but a lost art, I guess. Do people do that at all? Hang around in parking lots and around the stadium on the perimeter there, and you need tickets. You need tickets. Yeah, they still do that.
It still happens. I just don't know how many people actually buy them that way. Like people can get them in so many very vivid seats and StubHub and the whatever the one Polyman was attached to. Like there's so many of these off-site like ticket scalping services where I don't think I think it's a last-ditch effort to try and sell tickets that way.
Well, and you would think that these organizations are just buying them themselves, right? Is that happening? Is that part of the whole controversy about this? Where, I guess it applies to concert tickets too, where even Joe Biden is intervening now because he obviously got stiffed on a couple of Taylor Swift tickets and then realized, wait a minute, man, all of this, these are all surcharges? What, are you kidding me? And, so the price escalates. But it does seem like you can get yourself a bargain buying tickets on any of these online sites, right? They're almost always under face value, the tickets. Are they not? For regular season stuff, maybe not for the postseason. But, that'd be interesting. Anyway, the Mustang proposed that to me, and I said, I don't think you can do it. Where, and I guess you can't, right? Because they're shutting off ticket sales until they realize what's happening with Messi. But could make a nice coin, a piece of coin. No, that's better than dealing anything for the most part, right? Back in the day, right, when cocaine was like $100 a gram, forget about it. Who needs to be selling that when you could be selling Messi tickets? All right, will you ever be able to scalp a Marlin ticket? And are they going to get hot enough? Are they believable enough right now, Mike Lubie Lewitz? And I know you've been paying zero attention to baseball so far. I mean, you couldn't help but at least take a peripheral view of what's happening with the local baseball team. 10 games over 500 for the first time since 2011. Wow. That shows you how futile it's been here. Since 2011, I don't know how are they doing this. Are they just lately they've been going up against really lousy teams? That's a big plus. Does that all turn around tonight? Did we just issue and administer a serious kiss of death to these guys by all of a sudden starting to pay attention to them? The spotlight now shines on your Miami Marlins, and they've been doing a job. Skip Schumacher, Patrick Fox was saying on our chat line, a hell of a manager. I hate to think that it was Mattingly all along, no?
I mean, look, getting a rise, Mattingly didn't have him, and he's definitely calmed down the lineup. No. You've seen they went and got the Puck kid, which I don't think he was here last year, and he has definitely been very helpful when it comes to the
well, he's closing games.
Bullpen. Remember, the amount of one-run games they were losing was fucking record-breaking. Now it's the other way where they're winning a lot of these.
It was heartbreaking more than record-breaking. I mean, it was just painful to watch last year.
And that stuff, neither is something Mattingly had. So I don't think it was Mattingly. I mean, look, again, there's only so much a skipper can do, a coach can do. Sometimes their message runs its course, but they also Soler has woken up. I don't know if that's Mattingly or Schumacher. I mean, you always joke about the hitting coach. So when the hitting coach does a good job, now they're the greatest ever, because I think it's dumb when they're the first person fired. So like,
I didn't realize that Soler had previously had a 40 home run season. See, I didn't say I thought he was just a player that became attractive because he had a big World Series there when he was with the Braves, and was a World Series MVP. Was he not, Jorge Soler?
Yes.
And you thought, okay, wow, we get the World Series MVP, but the World Series MVP is a very short sample size.
Yep.
And maybe he had been dynamic throughout the postseason. I don't really remember the whole story with Soler, but I know he was great in the World Series. And you thought, all right, yeah, there's a good player. But if you looked at his overall body of work, did it measure up to getting consideration as a guy that's going to be this big power stick in your lineup and an impactful player and getting a lot of key RBIs? He has very good statistics, and they break this down now in such infinite proportions. But he has very good statistics from the seventh inning on hitting. Signs that he's like a clutch player. But
Yes.
Then you're thinking, well, let's do this more consistently. And my big beef with him was that he was hitting like 215, 220. But he's upped his average to about 250 something, and the home runs have become significant enough that this is the kind of player that you're looking for in Major League Baseball today, right? A guy that hits a very hard 250, 260, as opposed to, somebody that's going to hit with power and also, try and average like 300 or so. Am I dreaming about this? I'm in the Stone Age, am I not? Hell, there was a kid from LSU. Did you see this kid? He threw, I think, their second game for Louisiana State in the College Baseball World Series, and he threw like 50 pitches at 100 miles an hour plus. Shanky or something like that is his name. I don't know. Have you seen this guy for LSU? Which are the Gators not also faring very well in the College Baseball World Series, Lubie? Have you been following any of the action at all? I've stopped on a couple of games. It amazes me. I know they're using aluminum bats, but you see certain teams, and every guy is hitting like 350 with 25, 30 home runs on the season. What do they play? 60, 65 games? Something along those lines. And it's incredible to see some of the statistics that have been compiled by the teams that are in the College Baseball World Series. And this guy just goes out there and shuts everybody down with aluminum bats and all, notwithstanding. Looked to me like, and was he only the second best pitcher on LSU? Because I think he started their second game. Would you not throw your best guy out there in the first game of the College Baseball World Series? It's crucial, it seems, to get off to a good start in the College Baseball World Series. When you fall in the loser's bracket, you're like scrambling the rest of the time. And if you, are in the winner's bracket after that first game, much easier ride to the championship. At least that's the way the story goes. Nothing on that, huh, Lubie? You haven't watched a single second
I
of that?
watched any. The softball was on, so I paid sort of attention. The college baseball, I haven't paid any attention to. Like, I have no idea what's going on with that.
It's a great event. It really is. I had the pleasure of being out there a couple of times. I think I went sort of reluctantly the first time, although I enjoyed calling baseball games, so it didn't matter, and always liked to travel. But you're thinking, what kind of an armpit of the country is Omaha, Nebraska? They got great steaks there. It didn't seem enough, for me, of an appeal for me to want to go there to eat a steak. You could probably eat a steak pretty much anywhere else and have it be dynamite. But the event itself is absolutely fantastic. The local people there really are kind of the charm of the event, where they're so into it. And I would imagine, too, I mean, you get a lot of people that travel with their teams, not as much, obviously, as you would see in football or basketball, but there are, family and friends and that sort of thing. And I guess enough diehard fans, even FSU, would have fans out there, and Miami when they were involved in the College Baseball World Series. But the event itself transpires over about what? Is it a week and change, 10 days?
A couple weeks.
Yeah. And it was a pleasure. It really was. I mean, to get caught up in the whole thing, you even got to the point where you considered going to games that didn't involve your team. Then I would always consider maybe going to the local Native American casino, which wasn't exactly local. I think it was about 300 miles out of town. Sonny Hirsch talked me into going there. I'll never forget it, right? We're driving through like cornfields and wheat fields and all of this stuff. And all of a sudden we get to a neon sign, and it had Rod Serling on it, and it said casino, and it had an arrow pointing that way, which was like another road into the wilderness in the darkness. No lights, nothing. And we finally got there. It was a little rinky-dink place. And we played for about an hour before we got cleaned out, and then had to drive like 2.5 hours back. Sonny told me the place was just outside of town. Naturally, I had to drive. All right, we're coming back with more. Brett Tesler, the agent to the Stars, is going to join us here in a few minutes on the program, and we'll get into some football. What's happening? I mean, is there anything of any great significance going on right now? You had OTAs, organized team activities. Okay, we're going to play with clay, everybody. What was your favorite organized activity when you were in kindergarten? Doesn't it sound like something that was prescribed for preschoolers? Okay, we have an organized team activity, kids. But, and people like to read significance into it. So-and-so's looking good. But I'm not sure if there's anything there that we can deduce and say with any certainty is going to have any impact on what happens with the Dolphins this year. And yet, I don't know. I'm not as confident in this Miami Dolphin team as a lot of people are, Lubie. I don't mean to be pessimistic, and I'm not trying to be just an Ocean provocateur here and stir the pot. I don't know. Are they going to be that much better than they were a year ago? What do we think about that?
I think they are. I think they had a massive upgrade at defensive coordinator that is not getting talked about enough. I think they've added talent.
Fangio, man, yeah.
And I think another year or two in the system should serve him and them well.
Oh, it's not Fangio. Who's the guy they got?
Vic Fangio.
Yeah, Fangio, yeah.
And I look, they added Ramsey. They really didn't lose anything on defense. They get the guys that were hurt last year, Brandon Jones and Troy Williams back, and those guys showed a lot of signs. Like they're as talented a team as they've ever been in my lifetime. We'll see if they put it together. Yeah, I mean, I think
that's not saying much about your lifetime or the condition of the Dolphins during it.
Yeah, they've had a lack of talent most of my life. I'm very pleasantly curious. I'm not making any proclamations.
I'm drawing a question mark there in the screen.
Yeah, I'm curious. I actually have high hopes, but I'm not going to make any predictions because, again, the AFC is ridiculous. The Chargers should be better. The Jets should be better. The Broncos should be better. Like, there's a lot of teams. The Bengals have hovered. The Bills have hovered. The Chiefs are great. Like, there's a lot of teams with a lot of talent in the AFC. It's sort of fucking scary. Maybe, look, the Browns, we've forgotten about the Browns. Maybe Watson figures it out and wakes up. There's just a lot. Lamar Jackson got his money, so maybe he's better with the Ravens. There's just the AFC's fucking loaded, and it's really annoying. So I don't know where the Dolphins will fit in there.
Do the Jets win the division? There's a question for you.
I really have to see what Rodgers.
That's ESPN-esque, is it not? Do the Jets win the division, the AFC East?
100%.
you're thinking the Patriots once again will be the doormats of the division, which imagine that. Bill Belichick not exactly going out on a high note. He gets a lot of mileage, although do we have to factor in the cheating? I mean, this guy must cheat at everything. It's sad to say because he's one of those guys that doesn't need to do this. You know what I mean, Lubie? Have you ever had a friend like that? He just couldn't help himself. He had to rip you off somehow.
100%.
And you're saying, really, Joe, how could you do that? And he goes, I couldn't help myself. That's it. Just seemed like the thing to do. That's the way I operate. Like the worm in the movie Rounders, where he just can't help himself. You got it. You got the situation handled. Everything's going to be okay. But he couldn't help it. He's dealing off the bottom of the deck, of course. Gets caught, gets the shit beat out of him. That's the way that goes. The Jets, though, they win the division. I'm thinking I want to say no to that. And yet, how can you? They have in the last draft, right? Both of these guys they got the receiver and Williams and Sauce Gardner. Did they get both of those guys in the same draft or 2 years?
Wilson and Sauce Gardner in the same draft. Yes, the 2 first rounders.
Wow, those guys are great.
They're both highly talented guys. Yes.
Aaron Rodgers, he seems to have adapted to being a star in New York, has he not? If anybody thought he was going to be aloof and distant, he's been anything but that so far. He's embracing it like there's no tomorrow. He's at everything, Aaron Rodgers. There's nothing he has missed. He's at the Met Gala. He's at the games. I think he even hoisted a couple of shots for the Knicks in the Heat series. Both bricks, but nonetheless. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to make of it. Buffalo, are we down on the Buffalo Bills? Are we soured on the Bills because they had their chances? They knocked on the door and they've fallen off each time and seemed to go backwards a little bit last year, towards the end of last year. When it looked like they were going to be dynamic, I thought they were going to make the Super Bowl for sure. Did you not?
I mean, most people did.
The Buffalo Bills. And we can't discount, as you said, Joe Burrow. You can't figure he's out of there. All right, we'll discuss all of that. A little bit of a prognosis here and analysis on this is early preseason. But I am looking at lines here, Lubie. Opening week lines, NFL. Chiefs, Lions. How do you rate that game from a point spread standpoint? Chiefs at home against the... I mean, they're not even upstart anymore. They're kind of a known commodity. The Lions, who have been decimated somewhat by all of this gambling stuff that's going on.
Yes, they've gotten hit decently hard. It's weird that they had such a rash of gambling, but they have high hopes. They're the opening freaking game.
Chiefs, Lions. Chiefs laying 6.5. Chiefs coming off a Super Bowl win. What is the theory, Lubie? Bet against the defending Super Bowl champion in every game against the spread the ensuing season, and you would possibly be a rich man today if you had done that. 6.5 doesn't seem like an overwhelming amount of points to lay against a Lions team that may have to be figuring itself out a little bit because all of the people on the roster were degenerates. And is that really fair that they're suspending these guys like that? I mean, shouldn't they first be smacked with a warning of some sort, Libby? What do you say? If I'm the NFLPA, where is the radical stance from the NFLPA to say, what? That's all you guys talk about is gambling, and now you're going to punish us for gambling? You got to be kidding me. I guess it is written on, every contract, right? Do not get a FanDuel account. I don't even care if you're betting other sports. I guess it's football, but if you were a football player, would you not be inclined to bet on something that you knew a lot about? Inside information, too. I mean, that reeks of impropriety, all of that. All right, coming back with Brett Tester, the agent to the stars, in a moment. Now that.
The time.
8:37.
Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. Make the right choice for your home. Call Choice Mortgage today.
Are we all in stable but critical condition? Is that the way all life is, Lubie? In a general, more figurative sense? Would you say you're in stable but critical condition? I believe you are right now.
Probably.
On the threshold of getting married in the early portion of 2021. Don't you think it's a little soon, kid? You barely notice woman. What are you
We've
doing?
been together 4 years.
Well, I guess you know enough.
How much longer do you want her to put up with me?
Is it you that's pushing for this?
It's equal. We're both very happy and in love. It's very gross.
Oh, my God. All right. It's a foreign concept. You have to understand where I'm coming from. 0 for 2 with a walk. And, right now I think I got a 3-2 count in marriage number 3. But, and only because of the benefit of a really poor call on a ball that was clearly right down the middle of the plate. One of those Angel Hernandez calls. Get out of here.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Brett Tester, the agent of the Star, is going to join us in a few minutes here on the program. I was perusing with, I would have to say, more than mild interest, the opening week odds of NFL games. From this standpoint, Lubie, because I think, and we're speculating about these teams here in very vague parameters, but could you not get a little bit of a perspective on what the league's going to look like from just studying what people think in these opening line odds? Now, it doesn't mean that this is going to hold up, but and would you say it's a premature evaluation to be betting these games now? Can you actually? I would imagine you can actually bet these games at this point in time and take this price. Are you thinking that could be advantageous because you know some thing that others don't, and the line's going to differ greatly by the time you get to the regular season? I don't know. Are these lines going to move wildly in one direction or the other? They would, based on, let's say, Aaron Rodgers gets injured in training camp and is going to miss the entire season. And you're already stuck. The Jets, in the opening week of the season, play the Buffalo Bills and are 2.5-point underdogs at home to the Bills. With Aaron Rodgers, what do you think? Do they beat the Buffalo Bills with Aaron Rodgers in a very celebrated performance here? Kind of like, remember when Brett Favre was playing after he found out his father had passed away and they had like this miracle game on Monday Night Football? It was tremendous. Is Aaron Rodgers going to do something of that magnitude in his opening game against the Buffalo Bills for the New York Jets? Or is it more likely, which I would think most Jets fans would be resigned to this, no? That the Jets just perpetually suck. That no matter how good the prospects are, look at the New York Mets this year, Lubie. I mean, an absolute disaster. You could have never predicted this. You might have thought, well, Jesus, they're investing a ton of money in Scherzer and Verlander. Are those guys going to reach the point here where they eventually hit the professional wall? And they haven't been brilliant. I mean, they've been kind of inconsistent throughout the season. And then, they paid all this money for Francisco Lindor, and that hasn't amounted to much. He had a home run yesterday, I believe. I think they lost again. And hasn't exactly been worth $350 million, along the same lines as Giancarlo Stanton, who at least had a couple of good seasons once he got that contract. For the Marlins, hitting 59 home runs. All right, let's look at this real quickly here, Louie, and see if we can formulate any kind of impressions about what the perception is of how good or bad these teams are going to be. And we're talking about everybody getting a start there on opening week. Chiefs naturally accorded the nod over the Lions. Maybe are the Lions going to be overrated this year because of the losses that they've had? They've lost, what, 3 or 4 players of significance? And there's another guy under investigation, which I don't think anything's been decided on that yet about suspensions. But and it was supposed to be an even more serious case. Wasn't that involving a Lions player? So who knows what they're going to look like? You would have liked the Lions to progress, would you not? After all the things that we've said about Dan Campbell and his coaching methods, it was a very heartening story. I thought that was one of the good stories in the NFL last year when the Lions were like the best 0-6 team in the league. And we thought, these guys play hard every week. They're in every game. And then suddenly they turned it around. And then that brilliant performance on closing night as they knocked the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers out of the playoffs and maybe knocked Aaron Rodgers permanently out of Green Bay. That might have been a deciding factor. No. Lions, a great story last year. I'm not sure what they're going to be this year, but obviously a reasonably high opinion being held if they're only less than a touchdown dogs to the Kansas City Chiefs, in spite of some of the losses. Cowboys are 3 over the Giants on the road. Cowboys 3 over the Giants. What do you make of that?
People are high on the Cowboys. I don't know what to do with them.
Giants aren't going to make a continued ascent here? You don't think?
The Giants, look, the Daniel Jones, people have way too much confidence in him. And I don't know what they're going to do with Barkley. Barkley is key for them. And it seems like they're at a sort of a stalemate. And I don't know what that means for him playing with them. Their offensive line was an issue. And I don't know how much they addressed it. I don't know. The NFC East, the Eagles should dominate. That's just what I feel again. I feel like the Eagles are just going to dominate, and these other teams, the Commanders, have interesting signs of life, but I don't think they can compete with the Eagles.
Eagles 4.5 over the Patriots on the road. Patriots, we're not counting on for much this year, thinking they're probably going to be bottom dwellers in the AFC East. The Eagles, you say they're primed to repeat, Mike Lubie, as at least getting to the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship game? Eagles. You're thinking they're the cream of the crop. How did this happen to the LA Rams, by the way, Lubie, where we know they were awful last year, and apparently most people have a negative opinion about the Rams coming in this season as well, as they are not accorded much of a shot. They were so good, right? Weren't they loaded and just ready to dominate? I thought they would win the Super Bowl last year.
Yes.
Didn't you? Going into the season.
They fell apart. Matthew Stafford had the elbow issue, and he never got right. And they went all in the year before, and it sort of punched them in the stomach last year.
Underdogs in the opening game to the Seattle Seahawks, who were completely disregarded last year, and then came on and looked pretty good for the most part. Ended up with signing their quarterback, who was a journeyman, and they give him a big fat extension. I don't know. It's an interesting spot there, as the Rams you're not counting on for much again this year. Severe underdogs here. They are on the road, but 5.5 dogs to the Seattle Seahawks. But sort of interesting. I don't know if any of these lines are going to stay the same, or what they would mean. Are you inclined in your sickness to bet these games at this point? If I would imagine the windows are open. No, Lubie, that's the next game coming up in the NFL. All right, speaking of the NFL, here's a man that we really wanted to talk to about that while we're rambling about opening week point spreads here and trying to deduce which teams are going to be good and which teams are going to be awful this year based on that. We welcome to the show Brett Tesser, the agent to the stars. Brett, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, guys. Good to be with you.
Good morning, Tesla.
Good to have you. Just a quick postscript here, I guess, on the Panther season, since you are a Panther guy. I didn't realize, and, we were sitting there being critical, and Lubie saying, hey, this Ekblad, he sucks. And, we're looking at Kachuk, and he was not the same player after Game 3 of the Vegas series, but I did not realize to what extent these guys were busted up. You're involved in a sport that's also very physical and brutal and can be, extremely debilitating to players, but can you imagine even NFL players playing under these kind of conditions where you're going out there and skating around with a broken back?
No, I mean, everybody knows that most professional athletes, especially contact sports like football, like hockey, there's no doubt that these guys put themselves through a lot. And in many cases, the public never ends up finding out. And the truth is, had the Panthers won the Stanley Cup, not as much would be made out of it. It would just be like, oh, by the way, he had this and what a tough guy he is. But, they lost. And I don't think it's an excuse why, but I can promise you that if you looked at the medical evaluation buddy on Vegas, I don't think they were probably 100% either. So, yep, you had different guys playing with varying degrees of, injuries. It's the end of a very long physical season. But regardless what it was, how it turned out, it was an incredible season for the Panthers and certainly a huge step in the right direction, because now, if you really think about it, there's only one step left to take. And so, we've been the best team in the regular season the year before. We made it to the Stanley Cup this year, and now we'll see what they end up doing, because if there's one thing, injuries aside, that this series showed us, it's the areas that the team kind of lacks a little bit, and it makes it very clear what they need to pursue this offseason.
This is something that we were talking about a little bit with regard to the Lions. They've had, like 2 or 3 players suspended for gambling. And there's another guy, I think, that's under investigation for even more serious allegations in that regard. We've talked about this before. What is the NFL Players Association's stance on all of this? I mean, do they feel that players are being treated unfairly, harshly with such stiff penalties? One guy lost an entire season, the wide receiver, and does this seem like it's out of line considering the league's marriage with these gambling entities, and they're constantly trying to prod people to go ahead and bet on games?
Well, one thing that the league and Roger Goodell especially has shown that they're actually great at is punishing people, not necessarily great at educating people, nor very good at adapting to the times. And so, this isn't 1974. There's this thing now called the internet, and there's these things called apps. And there's this big thing in the NFL now, which brings the league billions of dollars, called betting advertisements and sponsorships, gambling, which, up until 2 years ago, Roger Goodell would tell you is the biggest no-no, and we're not getting involved in that, and the league is never going to partner with that, and it opens itself up to all kinds of sinister and nefarious, possibilities. And once the league realized how much money was being made due to, the FanDuels of the world, the DraftKings, they themselves realized, hey, we got to get involved in this. So now gambling sponsorship is a huge thing for the league. Of course, it's not helping the players. And so, if a player decides that they want to place a little bet on something else, they now need to be extremely educated on exactly what they can and cannot bet on, where and when they can and cannot bet on it. So it's a newer thing. And I think instead of just looking to drop the hammer and try to make a very harsh example out of a few guys, maybe they should have done a little better of a job anticipating things like this and really educating guys in a more clear and beneficial way for everybody.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I was thinking, shouldn't these guys get some kind of warning or whatever? I mean, maybe, if they do it again, obviously some of the things involve just the geography of where bets were being placed and had nothing to do with bets that were being made on the NFL, but they were inside the facility, which you would figure, okay, well, where is a football player likely to be? And it gets on his cell phone after practice and says, let me bet on the Knicks. I don't know. It seemed to me like instead of these suspensions, maybe some kind of warning should have been issued first. And then, as you said, educating the people on what the rules are, they sound more complicated than just don't bet on games.
All I can say, Deep, is if gambling and betting punishments were as harsh in the real world or associating with shady characters, if those punishments were as hard in the real world as they are in the NFL, you would have been sentenced to the gas chamber many years ago.
Call me Carol Chessman. Yeah, for sure. Would have been sitting in there about 8 times waiting for a call from the governor. as the warden says, "Hey, Whitey, pull him out of there." Some old codger guard comes and grabs you out of the gas chamber. All right, we were discussing just possibilities for the Miami Dolphins a little bit. What is your thought? I mean, are they going to be a much better team than they were last year? Because last year, essentially, they were the same team they were the year before, record-wise. And if you buy the Parcells thing, you are what your record says you are. Then they didn't really take this quantum leap forward. So, what do you think? I mean, have they positioned themselves to make an even further ascent now and actually become legitimate contenders in the league?
Well, one thing for sure, Tua's health is going to be a major part of how far they're able to go,
right?
Because he seems to run Mike McDaniel's offense quite well. And it's, statistically, they did a lot of positive things last year as it relates to passing the ball. It's a great run scheme, but at the end of the day, you wonder if just because, they did as well as they did offensive statistically, because they do have such a great coach and because they do have so many weapons. I mean, the likes of Waddle, Hill, Mostert, Wilson. I mean, there's some really, really good players there. You wonder if they couldn't have still done better, obviously, had Tua been able to stay healthy for the entire season. And if, they were able to really bolster that offensive line, that it seems like, the team sort of had success in spite of, not as much because of, because a lot of the things they did well were a lot of quick passes, a lot of misdirection, and things that teams kind of have their lack certain talent in other areas. Mom and I watched all the games, and she asked why we always have to dump puck in instead of being able to carry it like Vegas was able to do. The reason why is because we don't have the talent to do it like that.
Yeah. I'm kind of getting a choppy connection.
We got to dig the pucks out of the tough area. And as it relates to the Dolphins, same thing. A lot of the things they did were just sort of because of that's all they really had the personnel to do. So we'll see if they, were able to increase the personnel on the offensive line, and if so, as well as adding some pieces on defense, I think the team could be very good.
Does Mike McDaniel need to change, or in what ways would he have to evolve, in your opinion, to get the team to achieve better results? Say have an 11-win season or something along those lines, or do you think that and he was just fine last year?
I think McDaniel definitely did his job well, and I think that if the front office did their job well, and the scouts and other people involved in this draft, and if that running back they took ends up being a great complement to the talent they already have on offense, that's just another mismatch. If again, some of these young offensive linemen emerge, or some of the guys who've been there sort of take that next step, then yeah, there's even greater potential offensively. And so, it's a nice team. They're in a good competitive position. And if somebody listening is a fan, they certainly have a lot more to look forward to this season than they probably would have 7-8 years ago.
Do you think in the end it'll be the usual suspects that are competing for the championship, or is there a team that's being talked about, Brett Tesler, on NFL insider circuits that people are eyeballing and saying, you know what, you better watch out for so-and-so?
Well, as long as Patrick Mahomes is still alive and playing quarterback in this league, you will have to always count the Chiefs in. He's the best player in the league. A guy who since day one has been doing things in this league that we've never seen before, and in a very well-coached team, just a very well-rounded roster. And so the success they've had over the last 3, 4, 5 years, it's not coincidental. Obviously, when you've got the likes of Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, Josh Allen in Buffalo, those are definitely some of the situations. Very interesting because Herbert's a great one, and we'll see how the rest of that team sort of continues to develop around him. And then in the NFC, San Francisco is a scary team in terms of just individual talent at different positions. I mean, that team obviously has the greatest tight end in the league, the greatest running back, the greatest defensive end in the league. So their talent and their ability is scary. And then you add a guy like Deebo Samuel. So their quarterback situation obviously is the most interesting part of what they have going on there. We'll see if the kid Trey Lance ends up staying healthy and becoming what they, so desperately traded up, hoping that he would be, or whether Brock Purdy gets healthy and shows that, despite the fact that there's some limitations in terms of just downright ability, we'll see if he's one of those guys who can really manage that offense and do enough to where, the other players on that defense and everyone and all the other talented players on that roster are able to really carry them over the top.
All right, one final thing, just a quick note. When is the next big date of anything of significance that's happening in the NFL?
Training camp in late July. Obviously you got some mini camps along the way and things like that, just little nuggets here and there that are exciting for fans, just to hear some of the different names of some of the new guys and, hear how this guy's looking or that guy's looking. It's something that gets fans excited, but as it relates to what's actually important in this league, a week or two after that, you'll have the preseason starting, and that's when things will, really start to come into sort of.
All right, very good. I think we might have permanently lost Brett Tesser there at the end. That was a little choppy. That was the. I was hoping it would straighten itself out, Lubie. Were you also using some wishful thinking there, as you were trying to will that from being a verbal ransom note into being the usual succinct and very illuminating interview that we always have with Brett Tesser, the agent of the stars. All right, so he's optimistic, but I was drawing that question mark, Lubie. That is a giant one, is it not? That Tua question. What kind of season is he going to have? And if you're inclined to incur concussions, does it just exacerbate itself as each succeeding one takes place?
I don't know. It depends. We've seen guys have a run and then go years without having another one.
Yeah,
we've seen guys where it cuts their career short. I'm curious to see how he rebounds this year. I mean, this is make or break year for him here in Miami.
Certainly has some exciting tools there on the offensive side, and McDaniel, has incorporated them extremely well. They look great there for a little while, and then they had a tremendous losing downside towards the end of the regular season. Didn't they have to win their last game to get into the postseason?
Yep.
Against some schmank team. All right. That's going to do it for us. We had a lot of fun being with you today. The Juneteenth is not insignificant, so some form of observance of what happened there, just a mental acknowledgement, probably would strike, a great joy in your heart as you think, yes, that was what America was all about at the time. And it was about time. And hopefully we can come around to that way of thinking again, Lubie. What are the odds? They say Trump can't beat Biden, and I'm assuming Biden is going to be the Democratic nominee. There's one other guy going against him? One of the Kennedys?
It's Kennedy, who's really a Republican, but the Republicans have him in there as a Democrat.
Yeah. All right. So, Biden is going to be standing up there as the Democratic option for president. They say the polls say the Trumpster can't beat Biden.
No, there's no shot.
But that DeSantis can, which is even scarier to
it's
me.
It's weird because DeSantis can't beat Trump, but then he can beat Biden. I don't understand how that works. Whatever. I think DeSantis has no shot to even beat Sniff running for president.
My God. Stupid. And not unless everybody gets, that copy is distributing at his rallies of Mein Kampf. All right. We have to get out of here. We'll see you guys 12 o'clock. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. That'll be a lot of fun. And we'll catch you later on again tomorrow on the Defo Show. For Mike Lubie, Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
Let's go to
The time.
It's 9:01.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.